Good morning.
Have you guys ever denied something this morning? We all do it. I mean, it could be something as simple as if your wife asks you, does this look flattering on me? Oh, yeah, absolutely. We all deny things this morning. Different things and for different reasons. This is why we have a court system in place. Because people accused of crimes will oftentimes deny that they ever committed it. Sometimes rightfully so. Other times they'll do it just to escape the consequences of their actions. But we all deny things on a pretty regular basis, don't we? I mean, you guys know what today is, right? Super Bowl Sunday. How many of you are still in denial that it's actually the Rams and the Patriots playing? Me too. I still can't believe it. It's probably for the best, because if it was the Chiefs and the Saints, which it should be, we would cancel church next week. Because I'm going to tell you, if the Chiefs would have won, I didn't want to see your face. I love your faces, but I couldn't have done it. And I promise you, if the Saints had won, you couldn't handle me. So it's probably for the best. But we do deny things, don't we? Sometimes it's a simple denial of an outcome of a sporting event. Other times, we deny more serious issues that we never should deny. Sometimes we deny inequalities in our world because we don't want to admit that they're there. Sometimes we deny injustices because we just can't wrap our head around the fact that it actually happens. Sometimes we deny maybe claims or allegations against family members because we don't want to believe that it's true. Sometimes we deny our own sin because of shame or guilt. The reasons are all different, but we all deny things. Over the last few weeks, we've been in this series, God's People Are Broken People. And as we get to this point, this is our last message in this series. And as we get here, I hope that at this point our brokenness is something we know that we can't deny, right? It's there. We can clearly see our brokenness and our need for Jesus this morning. But as we wrap up this series, I do want to ask you a question. Have you ever denied something that you knew you shouldn't have denied? Something that you just knew, man, I probably shouldn't have denied that. The Apostle Peter did. You guys all are probably familiar with the story. The great Apostle Peter denied Christ. Not just one time, not just twice, but on 3 different occasions in one night, he denied any association with our Lord. And I mean, I guess as far as reasons go, Peter probably had a somewhat solid one. He was fearful of his life. He didn't want to face the same illegal trial and punishment Jesus was facing. So he said, I'll just claim that I wasn't with him. I'll just deny that I'm who they say I am. And this was a big deal. This was a really big deal. This was a long night for Jesus. This night that these denials happened, this was a long night for Peter. I mean, give him credit for what he stuck through that night. This story is told in the 22nd chapter of Luke. We have the Last Supper. And in this story, starting with the Last Supper, I want to tell you, we see Jesus doing Jesus things. I mean, there's some it's like, that's a Jesus thing. And we see in this story, Jesus doing some Jesus things. He tells them, you're going to go into the city and you're going to prepare a meal. And the disciples are clueless and nothing against them. Well, how are we going to do this? Where are we going to get what's going to happen? Jesus says, we're going to find this man with a jar of water and he's going to get, he just tells them, and then you're going to find this room, and he's made all these arrangements. And it's pretty miraculous, right? Because I want to tell you, Jesus didn't have a cell phone and he just called up the hotel and said, hey, can we reserve your banquet room? I'm going to send 2 guys out there. This wasn't something that he called ahead and made arrangements for. This was arranged by God to take place. And it was miraculous. It really was. Everything ends up working out. All of these preparations work out for Peter and John just the way Jesus told them it was going to. Isn't it crazy this morning? Do you realize how often that in the Bible, things work out just the way Jesus said they're going to work out. It's pretty crazy. The crazier part is sometimes we still lack faith in those words. Like last week when we looked at Samson, how after he killed 1,000 men, he sat down and he didn't even have faith God would give him water after he gave him such a great victory. I mean, sometimes our doubts is laughable. But after everything works out for Peter and John, just as Jesus told them it was going to, they're in the upper room enjoying the Last Supper, and then Jesus again tells them what's coming. And then we have a conversation between Jesus and Peter in this upper room. And Peter in this moment has a wonderful moment of faith. Luke chapter 22, verse 33, but he replied, Peter, Lord, I'm ready to go with you to prison and to death. He said, Lord, I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to go with you wherever. I'm standing with you, wherever it goes, prison or death. Jesus answered, I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows today, you'll deny me 3 times that you even know me. Peter couldn't believe that. After all, here he is, making a stand, saying, no, I'm going to follow you to whatever it leads. He said, I'm willing to pay the price of following you. It's this wonderful moment of faith. But once again, we see that what Jesus says is what comes to happen. After this meal, after this conversation, Jesus goes to the garden. He prays. His disciples go with him. After hours of prayer, Jesus gets up, walks, sees Peter and the other disciples have fallen asleep. He says, wake up and start praying. It's becoming quite a long night now. After these hours of prayer, Judas, who had already agreed to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, leads the chief priest to Jesus in the garden. Still the middle of the night. It's a long day, long night at this point. And Judas leads this army. They're with swords. They're coming to arrest Jesus. Peter, once again, is ready to fight to the death for Jesus. Peter's still standing firm in his faith. Peter's still saying, I'm with you, Lord. He pulls out his sword and he chops the guy's ear off. He says, I'm going to fight for you. Now, Peter wasn't aiming for the man's ear. If you knew how the Romans would carry their sword, they'd pull it from their side and then act like, it's kind of like chopping wood. So he was going for the man's head, and just terrible aim, he got his ear. But nonetheless, he's ready to fight for what he believes in. He's ready to take a stand for Jesus and fight for him, still showing great faith. I mean, doesn't quite understand exactly what he's doing and how he's doing it wrong, but he has great faith. Jesus, nonetheless, picks up the ear of the man, puts it back on him, and tells Peter, stop, put away your sword, lets them arrest him. Jesus is arrested, taken to multiple trials and multiple different courts, all in the middle of the night, and Peter's still trying to be faithful, is following along, trying to see what happens. Peter's still trying to follow Jesus through all of this at a distance, but nonetheless following. And then we get to a point where Peter sits down beside a fire. Read with me this part of the story in Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 54. It says, Then they seized him, Jesus, led him away, bringing him into the high priest's house, and Peter was following at a distance, still following. And when they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard, they sat down together. Peter sat down among them. Then a servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light, looking closely at him, said, This man was also with him. And he denied it, saying, Woman, I do not know him. A little later, someone else saw him and said, You're also one of them. But Peter said, Man, I'm not. And after an interval of about an hour, still another one insisted, saying, Certainly this man also was with him, for he too is a Galilean. But Peter said, Man, I don't know what you're talking about. Immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked at Peter. Can you imagine what kind of look he got right then? The Lord turned and looked at Peter, and Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said, Before the rooster crows today, you'll deny me 3 times. And He went out and he wept bitterly. Peter denied Jesus 3 different times. He was fearful for his life, didn't want to face the same trial that he saw Jesus going through. So he denied him. He did not any association with him. This should not surprise us this morning, right? As we've been looking at the last few weeks, how broken God's people are, it shouldn't surprise us that once again, we see a story of brokenness. Once again, we see someone mess up completely miss the mark and do something they shouldn't have. In this story, we also see 1 denial led to 2. 2 denials led to 3. I would imagine after the first time he denied Jesus, it probably was a little easier the second time. And then the third time, it got even easier. It's kind of how our brokenness is most of the time. It's a slippery slope. It starts with one statement, one denial, one action. Maybe we know we shouldn't, but then we realize, no, it's not that bad. And it gets easier and easier. Easier and easier. And our brokenness just falls out of control. You ever watched or been sledding, especially if you watch like the sledding in the Olympics? I mean, those suckers, they go fast down that hill. It all starts with someone at the top just giving them a little push. And then they just start going. They get up to like 65 miles an hour. That's kind of the story of our brokenness this morning. Starts with one little push in the wrong direction, one little bump, one little mistake, and if we don't catch it quick, it just snowballs until we're out of control. In this story of the cross this morning, in this story of Jesus' arrest and his trial and his crucifixion and his execution, what we see is brokenness. We see people out of control, people just like Peter, completely broken, denying Jesus, out of control. But Peter is just one example of the brokenness that we see in this story this morning. I want to look at Peter's brokenness, but I want to look at another individual's brokenness in this story. I want to look at the brokenness of Judas. I think by looking at these 2 examples of Peter and of Judas, we can see how to deal with our brokenness. I hope by this point we all understand we are broken. So we're probably asking the question, what do we do about it? Okay, you've sold me. Last 3 weeks I've been coming. Cody, I know I'm broken. What do I do about it? Well, by looking at Judas and Peter, I think we see what to do and what not to do. Judas, first of all, I think one of the realizations we see in that story is he didn't understand what he was doing. Didn't understand the extent of his brokenness. Oftentimes, we don't understand the extent of our brokenness, do we? We don't understand exactly what's going to happen because of our sin, the consequences of our actions. We don't always comprehend that. And you can make all the excuses you want. None of them are going to make the situations better, but I honestly, this morning, will tell you, I don't think Judas was intentionally trying to betray Jesus. I don't think that was his intentions. Now, Judas, he didn't leave us a note explaining why he did what he did. So, I can't say without a doubt. But in my opinion, and most scholars would agree, Judas was trying to force a revolution. The disciples believed Jesus was going to conquer the earth with this great army. He was going to defeat the Roman Empire and the whole world and conquer it all. And Judas was tired of waiting on it. He thought, if I set this up, if I put the soldiers here and Jesus here where they have to fight, then surely Jesus will fight and he'll win. Judas thought he was starting a revolution. He thought he was starting a war. What he thought he was doing was he thought he was manipulating God to do what he wanted. How many times do we think we can manipulate God to do what we want? We think we can manipulate the situation and then God will do what we think he should. I think that's what Judas was doing here. He was trying to manipulate God, and that never works out. But Judas didn't understand exactly what he was doing. He didn't understand the consequences of his actions. He didn't understand exactly how broken he was. We don't always understand our brokenness, and that's why we're in this series. That's why we did this, because I want us to realize exactly how broken we really are. And hopefully we're starting to realize that. This morning, I don't think Judas and Peter are very different. I really don't. I don't think that they're so different. Yeah, Judas sold Jesus out, but Peter denied him. And that was a pretty hefty sin as well. I mean, look at what Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 10. He says, whoever denies me before men, I'll also deny before my Father who's in heaven. So, I mean, Peter's denial, that's a pretty big deal too. I don't think they're so different. They're both sinners. Both made mistakes. Both mistakes were massive. Both are broken people. So, I mean, what sets them apart? What does make them different? Because I do think there is a slight difference. Just not much. With Peter and Judas, we see two ways to handle our brokenness. The right way and the wrong way. And Judas shows us option number one. We can try to deal with it on our own. We can try to make it right ourselves. We can try to make amends. We can try to take back our actions, or we can try to do enough good to outweigh our bad. We can try our hardest, feel remorse, and then try to make things right on our own. Look at what Judas does after he realized what he had done. After he starts to realize his brokenness, look at what he did in Matthew chapter 27. It says, early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans to have Jesus executed. So they bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, when he realized what he had actually done, when he realized his brokenness, he was seized with remorse. He felt bad. He knew he had messed up. He was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. I've sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied, that's your responsibility. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. He went away and hung himself. Judas tried to make it right on his own. He said, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. He said, I'm going to give the money back. I'm going to take back my actions. I'm going to make it better. Have you ever tried to fix something this morning, and then you realized you're in over your head? Realize I can't fix that. I mean, it could be something as simple as a plumbing problem. You start tearing up something and realize, I don't really know what I'm doing. It could be, I heard a story of a father and a young daughter who were at the ocean, and it was a cold day, so the water was a little chilly. The father was in there swimming, and the little girl wouldn't go because she said it was too cold. And they had this condo right on the beach, so he ran into the house and boiled a pot of water and came out. The water's, hot and steaming, and he dumped it into the ocean. So the little girl thought, the water's warm now. And ran in just to find out, no, it's still cold, and run back out. Tried to heat the whole ocean with a pot of water. Judas tried fixing his brokenness on his own. Sometimes we do that. I want to tell you this morning, that is just as foolish as trying to heat a whole cold ocean with one pot of warm water. You can't do it. The problem's too big. Your solution's too small. You can't fix it. Look where it landed Judas. He realized how broken he was, and he at that point realized, I can't fix it. He realized, there's nothing I can do about it. I want to tell you something. I hope that's you this morning. I hope that you realize how broken you are, and you realize that you can't fix it on your own. When Judas realized this, he ended his life. He said, I'm too broken. I can't take it anymore. And we do run that risk when all we do is focus on our brokenness. That's why this is a very interesting series. Because while I want you to realize how terribly and completely broken and sinful you are, you have to. In order to appreciate Jesus and the gospel and what he did for you, you have to understand how sinful you are. But you can't stop there. Because the story doesn't stop there this morning. You first understand brokenness, and then you understand Jesus. Judas got the first part. He saw his brokenness, but what he didn't do is he didn't wait around on Jesus to fix it. Honestly, don't think Peter and Judas are very different. Both were broken, both made mistakes. Both seemed to hate themselves for their sin. Both showed remorse. Both had guilt. Both wanted to be different. I mean, surely Peter heard the teaching of Jesus in Matthew 10. He knew the price of denying Jesus. He knew how bad he had been. Excuse me. He knew he was completely unworthy. We even get this great statement from God in Mark chapter 16 when the angel is talking to Mary at the empty tomb. Look at what the angel says. Don't be alarmed, he said. You're looking for Jesus, the Nazarene who was crucified. He's risen. He's not here. See the place where they laid him? But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he's going ahead of you in Galilee. They will see him there as he just told you. Tell his disciples and Peter. Peter at this point in his brokenness wasn't even worthy to be called a disciple. Tell his disciples and Peter. But then we get a great moment in this story. We get a fairy tale ending. John chapter 21. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answers, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. You know the difference? It's a small one. But you know the difference between Peter and Judas? Judas tried to fix this brokenness on his own. And Peter let Jesus take care of it. That's what we have to do this morning. This morning, are you trying to finish your own story? Are you trying to make it right on your own? Are you just saying, okay, I'm going to stop that sin. Okay, I'm going to do this to make up for it. Okay, I mean, what kind of deals are you trying to make to get out of your brokenness? You trying to give it back, take all your actions back? Or are you just saying, Jesus, fix me? I can't do anything. As we are getting close to closing this morning, I'd like you to watch this brief video.
Grace is God's unmerited favor for us, His crazy love. And the truth is, many times we struggle understanding it. If you find yourself struggling to understand God's grace, don't beat yourself up. Even the disciples struggled with understanding grace.
Jesus, is that you? You're alive. I can't believe you're alive. Okay, I was in the boat and I wasn't catching any fish, okay? But I heard this voice and the voice said, cast your net to the other side. And so I'm thinking, I'm a fisherman, I know what I'm doing, but I'm not catching any fish, you know? And so I throw that net over there and then a gaggle of fish pop into that net and I'm going, this is a total miracle. Who could have done that? I need to know who told me to throw the net to the other side. And boom, I look up and I mean, there is you. You're looking at me on the seashore going, it is I, the Lord, and you're alive. I can't believe you're alive. This is awesome. Andrew, get out of the boat. Come on.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Yes, I love you. I love you. You're alive. This is so great.
Good, then feed my sheep.
Andrew, get out of the boat. Come on, man. It's him.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
I love you, yes. And I'm so sorry about that rooster clucking. I had no idea what that meant, but I do now. I'm better for it, all right? Okay?
Then feed my sheep.
Andrew, I'm smiling, but I'm serious. Come on, get out of the boat. It's him.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Jesus, mere words cannot describe the passion that I have for you. I love you. You know everything. I love you.
Good. Good. Then feed my sheep.
I didn't even know you had livestock. That is so like you, though. There's something new about you all the time. That's what I love about you.
Peter,
Yeah.
do you remember the morning the ladies went to the tomb?
Yeah. We're all in the upper room trying to figure out what to do next, you know, because we thought you were dead. You know, you were dead, you know, and we're trying to figure all that out, you know. And Mary comes running up, and Mary's like saying, beehive, beehive, beehive. And I'm thinking, I'm allergic to bees. Like, keep them out, you know what I'm saying? But as she kept getting closer, I heard her correctly. She was saying, he's alive, he's alive, he's alive. And we're going, who's alive, who's alive? And she said she was at the tomb, and the tomb was empty, and she said that there was an angel there, and the angel said, go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay, he is risen. And so me and John, we hightailed it down there, and if John says he beat me, he's totally lying, all right? I beat him, FYI, all right, you know? And we get down there, and I'm looking in that tomb, and it is empty. There's nothing in there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And John is right there. John is so good with words. He should write a book. He is so good with words. And John said, don't you get it, Peter? This is everything Jesus said he was going to do, and you did it, and it's done. Let's go. This is so great.
Wait, the angel said what?
Go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay. He is risen. You've risen. Let's go.
He said what?
Go tell the disciples and Peter. Go tell the disciples and Peter. You said my name. Why did you say my name?
Peter, that's grace.
No, I don't deserve that, because that night people kept coming up to me asking me if I belonged to you, if I was with you, and I kept denying you left and right, all right? No, it'll take me my whole life to make up for what I did. It was unforgivable for what I did.
No. What I did on the cross was meant to take what is unforgivable and make it forgivable. That's my grace. It's not about you. It's always about me. That's grace, Peter.
How powerful this morning. How true. It's not about us. It's not about what we can do to make up for what we've done. It's about Jesus. What he did to be able to forgive what we've done. On that cross, Jesus did just that. He made what was unforgivable forgivable. Not because we've earned it. Not because we took the money back. Not because we took our actions back. But because his perfect blood was shed. And it can cover our brokenness this morning. It can cover your brokenness this morning. You know what the difference between Peter and Judas was? It was a small one. Much like the difference between a lump of coal and a beautiful diamond. If I know the science of it right, and I may not, but if I know the science of it right, they're really quite similar. The difference is a small one. On the outside, they look completely different, right? One is this terribly ugly, filthy, black, dirty lump of coal. The other one is this beautiful diamond. But they're both carbon. They're both crystal-like structures. They're both very similar. The difference is a small one. It's that over time and pressure, the diamond begins to let light shine. Christians are similar. The difference between a terrible, ugly, filthy life and a beautiful diamond is over time and pressure, do you let the light of Jesus shine through your life? Do you let the grace of God in to take care of your filth and cover it up? Or do you continue to block him out, try to make up for it on your own, and end up dirty, broken, and miserable? As we close, I don't know where you're at. If you've never let Jesus fix your brokenness, maybe because you're too busy trying to make up for it on your own, stop. That's foolish. You can't do it. Come here today and let Jesus fix you, because you can. And maybe you did that a long time ago, but you've forgotten the beauty of God's grace, and you've gotten back in that rut of, I'm going to fix myself. Stop it. Wherever you're at this morning, come to terms with the fact that you're broken, but God can fix you. And let that truth cover you this morning.